And here we go for my second Testimony Tuesdays. These are special segments that I just started actually last week on Tuesdays that I will be showing at 12 p.m. with just people giving different testimonies about what God has done in their lives. If you're interested in giving your own testimony, just make sure you just look, send me a message. You can sign up on my website. If you need more information how to do that, you can email me. However you want to connect to me, just connect to me, and we'll go ahead and set that up because I absolutely love hearing testimonies. And again, I'm having Ryan Tyther give his testimony today. His wife gave her testimony last Tuesday at 12 p.m. And then we're going to pick right up with Ryan giving his. And again, another powerful testimony. And again, this is the reason why I like to do these things, because hearing things like this just always not only shows you that God works in many different ways, and that even if stuff is not going the way that you think it should go, that God is still with you. He hasn't forgotten, and that He has a plan laid out for the whole thing. And what He has laid out for you, a plan for you, is much better than all the things that it seems like you're losing. So here we go for testimony 2, part 2 of Miyah and Ryan Tyther. Ryan, I know you want to add on to your experience of walking with God and how you have to let some things go. So what did you have to share about that?
So my journey is a little different. I started later than her, but at the same time, it's God's path. He had a mission for me. I didn't know I was on at the time, but a little backstory. I mean, I grew up in the Catholic Church. Got communion, did confirmation, but it wasn't something like I chose to do. I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so excited for this. It was just
tradition.
Hey, I have to go to church school. This is what you got to do. And that's what I did. So I kind of went through it. But after a while, once I got into the entrepreneur space, there was a recurring theme with I don't want to say like anti-God, but a lot of people were obsessed with, personal brands and money, and that kind of getting into that space took me away from God for a little bit. So I wasn't comfortable with the word God. I wasn't comfortable with religion. When it came up to that type of discussion, I didn't really care to talk about it. I just was like, let's go do something productive so we can go make money and go do all this stuff. So I stayed away from it. And as I got further into that field of entrepreneurship, I did get into personal development, which, looking back, that was God making His way back into my life.
Gateway.
Mind. Yeah. Yep. So, and I didn't know that at the time. I just thought, this is what you got to do. This is how you become successful. So I started getting into personal development, motivational speaking. I was doing Facebook Lives all the time. I would have 1,000 people jump on my lives and just watch me speak. And I would do testimony to my business, what I'm making, how I'm being successful, what I learned in my failures, and just giving that people real life, authentic truth to somebody that's coming up from nothing to something. Because I didn't grow up like fancy or rich or had a bunch of money. I got middle class. My mom, my parents divorced. She raised me. My dad, he was a cop. He kind of went through his own little personal downfall. So our family had it was an interesting time. So I kind of had to go off and do my own thing for a while. And that was back in 2017. I was working 3 jobs. I was working 90 hours a week and wasn't really pulling a lot of money. I mean, for 90 hours, I think I was pulling in barely $1,000 a week. But
oh, wow.
I was still doing what I had to do because my mindset was, I'm productive, I'm making money, and I have goals. So let's do it. And I got into the foreign exchange industry back in 2015. So for years, I studied and I traded accounts, and I was starting to get good at it. And eventually in 2017, I felt very confident with what I was doing, and I quit all 3 of my jobs. And I ended up getting an invitation to live with the guy who initially taught me the entire structure of foreign exchange. And it's in the house that she moved into.
The one I told you I left.
And I had no idea. Because she lived in that house before the guy that was living in it invited me to stay in it.
And we didn't know each other.
We didn't know each other. So I moved into the house. I lived in her son's room, didn't know. And I stayed there for about several months. And in that time, and this is, I attribute a lot of my success, I don't want to say success, but a lot of my learning curve from other people's failures.
Okay.
So I didn't personally just drop and lose everything. Instead of me having to go through all that suffering, I was like, I see a bunch of y'all suffering. Y'all are doing it wrong. I'm not going to do that. So,
hey, that's the best way to learn. And
Yeah.
honestly, like I tell my kids, like, you don't have to fall down. Like, so we do learn from falling down. Don't get me wrong. But if you can just watch somebody else fall down and then see where they made a mistake and then don't do that, that is much better. But
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and I still have my own failures. You know, I still went through stresses and whatnot, and I learned from it. But it was definitely aspects of the reoccurring theme I started noticing in all these people, whether they had millions or there was one guy I was working with is Brad. His name was Brad. I forget his last name. I didn't care at the time, but he's $1 billion man. And the reoccurring theme that I saw between all these people that I lived with and worked with is they were all stressed, and they were always constantly trying to chase this fulfillment that they didn't have. Like they had something
and money
missing.
Couldn't buy.
Yeah. And I just noticed that. I didn't know what it meant. I just noticed, I'm like, yo, like you guys have money, but no one's happy. Like
wow, that's
like,
powerful.
How can you guys not be happy? Like, because in my mind as an entrepreneur, y'all making money, you should be happy.
Yeah, they had arrived. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and they all had relationship problems. They had business structure. They didn't trust people in their circles. And I was like, dude, something is going on. They're doing it all wrong. And a lot of their actions came from self-centeredness. They did things out of greed. They did things for personal gain and to screw everybody else. And yes, it made them money, but it came at the cost of their happiness and joy. So I started noticing these patterns, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting tired of this. And these people on top of that were doing, they were manipulating me too. It was you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type thing. But instead of being upfront about that, they would essentially just go ahead and scratch my back without telling me and then say, okay, now you owe me.
Now you owe me.
And I was like, for what? I didn't ask you to do this. Why do I have to go out of my way now to make you happy? I didn't ask you like, hey, dude, do this for me, blah, blah, blah. And like, I'll do something for you later. It was just, that's how they operated. That's how they grew up. And they thought that's how business worked. And it was so toxic, and it made me do some stupid things. And I thought I was obligated to it, and quickly realized I wasn't. And I decided to start making different choices. And I eventually got out of working with those people. I left their certain houses. And I found myself in Arizona in a house that I moved in with an ex-business partner who I don't work with anymore. And when we first lived there for a month, we had no furniture. So I had no bed. We had no couches. We had nothing. So for a month I slept on the floor on rug, and found my own comfort in it. I was grateful because I was like, yeah, I got a roof. Like I'm cool. And in that time frame, I was in a zone of like, I just want to work on me. Like, I don't want to do anything else for anybody else. If I'm going to do something, I want to do something for myself, and people are going to either work with me, or I'm not going to try to sell my soul to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I built up teams. I was about to close about $200 million deal for people over in Germany. They were running a crypto coin, and they wanted me to invest. They wanted me to trade some money for them. And literally they had $200 million they were willing to give me if I had worked with somebody else and built up the account. And things didn't go well with that guy I was working with. He lost money and they backed out of the deal, which I'm grateful for because I just didn't want to work with them. And in that time that I was going through that, let's say, downfall, or should I say purging, to get back into alignment with God, that's when I met Miyah. So I was by myself for a month before that, and I was told by my ex-business partner that she was coming home with somebody after a month. I was like, okay, cool, I'll see you when I get here. And one day she just popped up at like 7 a.m. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And the sad part is that I had a girl over that night, thinking that, like, because I was filling the void within myself. Like, I was lonely. So, and this is about the time when Tinder and Bumble and all these dating apps were big. So everybody was really using it. And I was just looking for somebody to have over that night. And I did, but I didn't feel anything towards it. And that's when I really noticed. I was like, man, this is a big waste of time. And I finally met her. And when I met her, I was like, I'll be right back. I got to, see this girl to leave. And then I came back, shook her hand. I was like, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you. And we had a strictly platonic relationship. Like, she did her thing, I did my thing. And in those times when we were together, I noticed that she had a lot of similarities to the way I would think. And one of the things I used to preach about to my followers for the marketing I was doing was that don't go out looking for relationships, because we all know the phrase "seek and you shall find," right? It's a verse, and you can do that. But the thing is that if you are constantly putting in your mind, I need to find someone to be with, you are going to go find that person. But if you're not working on yourself, if you're not doing what you love, you're going to find a wrong person, because eventually you're going to realize that, wow, you're not actually happy because this person doesn't love doing what you're doing. So I told people, don't look for any relationship. Don't try to be with somebody. Be with yourself. Go find your passion. Go do what you love. And on that path, you will find the same person doing the same thing.
Wow.
You will find someone similar to you. And that's exactly what happened. Like, to a T, everything I had been saying happened. And it was funny because I even said this in my lives. I was like, you're not even going to notice the person at first, because you're both going to be so passionate about doing the things that you're doing. And we didn't notice each other for a whole month. We were living in the same house, and we never once looked at each other in any type of relationship at all. It was strictly friends. And we started noticing, like, dude, I think the same way. Like,
you're finishing my sentence.
Finishing each other's sentences, and it became so in my face. I was like, we have to talk about this. Like, this is getting ridiculous. And she was working on a project at the time, and I heard her talk about it, and without hesitation, I immediately was like, I get it. Yep, I'm all for it. And I started presenting it with her without knowing all the details. I'm like sitting here trying to talk to my friends about it, and it just all worked out so effortlessly. It just flowed, and I was like, I have never experienced this in my life ever. And we were in LA one day, and we came back, and she said, I'd do anything for you. And I said, I would do anything for you too. Didn't really know what I was getting into because it was so new to me. I had never experienced it. And from there, we just grew into what we are now. I mean, we went through our ups and our downs in the beginning because of I had desires that were blocking me, right? I had my angel on one side, I had my devil on the other side, and I had been listening to this devil for a long time and thinking those were normal thoughts. So like when we were together, I'm like, but I have desires with other women and like flesh desires, and I money and business, like this is what I gotta do. Like sitting here preaching what she knows and what she's experienced, and I'm just like, wow, like I knew what she was saying was right, but it was so against what I wanted to be right.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Like, wow.
You were making me rethink everything, and this is not comfortable because she's right. And if I don't follow her and and do what she's saying, like I'm living a lie.
Wow. Wow.
I had to strip everything. I left all my businesses. I left all my friends, like all the people I was really good friends with. I don't even talk to anymore. None of them are in my life anymore. And it's not because like I hated them, but ideologies are different. Focuses and perceptions are different. I couldn't do it. And we took a very big leap. I took a big leap. And when we left everything, we left the house that we had rented, and we had to leave furniture there. We had to leave clothes there.
Now that house was 2 blocks away from the house I last lived in Arizona. He lived 2 blocks away from the house when I found him.
So we had to, it was a big leap in my mind because we had to then drop everything. And she had already dropped everything. She'd be living out of a bag for years. So it's something she's used to. To me, I'm like, I can't just drop. Like I had clothes that I was like, I had for like 5 years. I'm like, I can't get rid of these. You know, like having attachment issues. I'm like, what is this feeling?
In the back of the car. So you would think that it was my stuff. There was so much of his stuff. I had one bag in the car, and the whole trunk was full of him.
Hours just to be able to sort through things I wanted or didn't want. And when eventually, like I got rid of all of it.
He was squirming through the whole process. He was so uncomfortable because I was doing a live, and God spoke through my own mouth in that live to us and said, if your bills are not paying themselves, if the flow of money that's supposed to come to them and pay them is not naturally happening, and you're not having to force it, then that ain't your house.
Exactly.
And that ain't your car, whatever it is, you need to get rid of it. And I got off the live and went, oh my God, I'm talking to myself. And I yelled, guys, we have to leave. What? And
What do
I
you
said, we
mean?
have 24 to 48 hours. We're selling everything and we're leaving.
Yep.
I knew what
Wow.
God was doing.
Wow. Wow.
The crazy part in all of it was that I knew she was right, but I also, even though I was jumping into this unknown before I even understood, like, hey, when you take that leap and you have that unwavering faith, you're going to be caught no matter what. Before I knew that, I had this overwhelming surety, like certainty that what we were about to do was going to work out, even though I'd never done it. It was and it was scary to me at the time because I still wasn't used to saying God. I was saying the universe. I was saying, all these, just saying the universe, the law of attraction, manifestation.
Yeah.
All the things that are not him.
Yeah. I don't.
Well, they are him. There's people they're giving it. They're not acknowledging where it came from because everything comes from God. You want to take a piece of God and then name it something else. It's still God, so you have to.
You're more comfortable with it.
That's what it was. It was just me comforting myself because I was so not used to saying God, and I thought it had like this astigmatism to it. Like if I say that, oh, what are you, a religious freak? Like
yeah.
I was like, no, I'm the universe. Yeah.
So, stuck. I was gonna say that trip taught you faith.
Yeah,
you gotta talk about what we had to do on that trip.
I mean,
the beginning of it, because our dog ate his wallet, and I'm not kidding, ate our license, credit cards, everything. Both of us lost our license, and God's like, "You're gonna go from Arizona to New Jersey with no license. Oh, don't forget, no insurance for that car and no tag. But you going, and you gonna ride on faith."
We made it across the country. We didn't get pulled over.
We did break down one time, and a cop came up behind us and said, "Hey, do you guys need any help?" And we're like, "No, we're good. It'll start working in about 5 minutes." He said, "Okay, have a nice day." And you can see the track was dead.
Wow.
We never left. But what I was gonna say was that in that time, I knew that the universe, right, God, was he was there. And I had this trust, and I took that leap, and it took me across the country about 4 or 5 times, driving, like she said, without a license, without insurance, without a tag, meeting people and getting ourselves into situations that were kind of sketchy, but like what I thought was sketchy, but it was just more testing my faith. And faith is not something that, if you've never experienced it before, it's not something you can just believe in, because you're asking somebody to believe in the unknown. You're asking them to take a chance, and roll the dice.
Research it either.
Yeah, there's not something that you can. What is faith? Oh yeah, you can't just go read it in a book and like it's like a way I say it is, it's like skydiving. Like you're not just gonna just go up into the skydiving thing without knowing how to parachute, without knowing how to maneuver your body. Like, read a book on how to skydive. You have to actually skydive
to know what it's like. Yeah.
And that's what faith is. You can't just know faith. And all of these trips that we took over the next 2 years following the year that we left, everything was a leap the entire time. We had no income, like we had no guaranteed place to stay. We didn't know where food was going to come half the time. We eventually got into a car and we lived in the back of a truck of a Ford 1999 Ford Expedition. We
wow.
That took the seats out, put a futon in, and we traveled across that thing and slept. We slept in frigid cold. We had to find places to sleep in hotel parking lots, and we would find a place there. And
we'd shower in gyms.
We had a gym membership, so we go to Planet Fitness and take showers at the gym. Like we had it all figured out. Like at my mind at the time, I was not about to let fear take over. So I was like, we are going to get through this, and I don't care how it looks. Like, we're going to be fine. I literally was fine with taking showers there. I was fine with, getting little coffees here and working at a coffee shop because we literally have no other place to work.
Or sitting in the parking lot at a store with no money and not knowing where it's going to come from and no food. And we're both dancing to some music, sitting in front of the store, knowing that somebody is coming and it's God through some vessel. And it worked every time.
I mean, there's so many, we can talk for hours about our testimony, but the reoccurring theme here was that everything in our life over the last 4 years now has been nonstop leaps of faith. And I have consistently every single time watch it all play out, even when it looks like it's falling apart, because that's what it looks like at first. Things are falling apart of your life. You're losing friends, you're losing family, you're losing money, you lose your job, you lose your car, house. I've lost it all. And in that moment, in that time frame, every single thing always had a reason. It always had a purpose. And it takes that unwavering faith to be able to see through the distraction, the illusion, the emotional roller coaster, to know that on the opposite side is God, is what you're supposed to do. And like my favorite quote is by Steve Jobs, and it was, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards." So that each moment you're living in is a moment of choice, that every time you make a decision leads you down a different path. And you can't know how those decisions have altered your path until you're at the final destination and you look back and be like, wow, that's why I made a left at that light. That's why I met her. That's why we worked with that guy. Even though it didn't work out, we met him and he introduced us to this woman and we're working with her. Like, you can't see it in the moment, but you will see it once the moment is over and you
if
have
you
moved
have
on.
trust in the moment, that's where you can find your patience and your peace. And
humility, because a lot of that, especially what you guys are talking about losing your material stuff, because on this planet Earth, that's what we use to judge success or not success. And so to lose those things is like, what does that say about me? So it really teaches you
social status.
Yeah, it really teaches you humility, like you said, patience, and a lot of other things. And that's the point. That's what we miss, is that it's not about all this stuff that we see. It's about what's happening on you inside, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, how you're growing and maturing through these experiences. And when you do that, you can connect to God much better. And that fulfillment of being able to connect with him is way better than all of that other stuff. Like, it's way better than all of the other stuff. And you're like, what price can you put on peace? Just like what you said with all those people who are rich and they have money and they have businesses, but they're not happy. They're not really happy with themselves. A lot of times you don't even know yourself. You don't have good relationships. So what price can you put on your identity? What price can you put on peace? What price can you put on having healthy relationships with people that you love? Like, God takes stuff from us, but he replaces it with something much more valuable than the things that we often focus on. So I love this. Wow, this is great. You guys are great. I really can see now, because I haven't watched any of your stuff yet. I was going to get to that later when we, talk about doing the show, but I can see you guys really doing good, like, podcasts together. Like, Miyah, I love your voice. I don't know if anybody's told you that before. You have a good radio voice, a good podcast voice. And, just guys, you guys' chemistry, your stories, like, I can see already it's really, really good and engaging. So it's really great.
You.
I appreciate
that.
So
wow, this is really good, and this is a great kickoff to my Testimony Tuesdays. I'm even more excited now that I'm listening to you guys and what else God might bring across my path to let people know what he's doing in people's lives and things like that, and the journeys that people go through, and that you don't have to be scared. He has your back, and just hold on and get to the other side, and guaranteed it will be worth it. It's always been worth it to me. I've never went through anything with God and I came out and said, that was stupid. I wish he would never took me through that. Like, it was always like, wow, oh my goodness, thank you, God. Yeah. So do you guys have anything else you want to add before we wrap this up and let people know again about your app and things like that?
I mean, you can find our app. I mean, we have a YouTube channel. We have Facebook. The Facebook's the Mirror Class. We have YouTube. It's the Last Hour Podcast, Spotify, Apple Music. The Heaven app is really the newest thing that we have coming out right now. And we're going to be launching that officially on the 22nd. And it's a fresh revamp of everything that we've experienced over the last few years. So we're just taking everything that we've already built and we are just making it way more efficient, way more clear, to the point where people can have an attention span instead of have to sit there for 2 hours. We're gonna make it shorter and just more efficient overall. So we're super excited. Give us a follow.
Last Hour Podcast. That's our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Yeah, I will make sure I put you guys' links under this video so everybody would know where they can find more information about you. I'm sure anybody who watches is going to look you guys up because this was really great. Yeah, really inspiring, encouraging. It's just really good. And it always helps me, like, because I know the stuff that I've been through with God. It's like, it's really personal. And so you kind of wonder, is other people going through stuff like this, you know? And so it's great to like hear that other people are kind of going through similar stuff. So yeah, it's really great. So thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and look forward to doing a show with you guys in the future sometime.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. So tune in next week for another Testimony Tuesday. And thanks for tuning in this time. So goodbye, guys. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't forget my podcast on Saturdays at 12 p.m. Outside the Box.
There you go.
All right. Goodbye. And that was it for Brian and Miyah Tyther. Like, I hope you guys got something out of it like I did, because it was really, really awesome to hear, you know, the drastic switch that they had in their lives by coming to God and being naked before God and humble before God and letting him grow them. I really like how Ryan talked about, you know, because we all have this mentality of this worldly mentality of success and having money and power and things like that. And I really like how he revealed that he was on the other side of that, and he saw that those people were not happy, and he decided to do something different. And so I think there's so many aspects of both of their testimonies that can just resonate with a lot of people, that again, this is why I wanted to do this. And I hope you guys got something out of it. Again, if you want to share your own testimony or life lesson that you've had, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to give you the platform to do that. So thank you guys again, and make sure you tune in next Tuesday at 12 p.m. for my next Testimony Tuesday. Thanks.